Lord, Lord, open unto me. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me.
The words of the Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman to begin our service this day. Good morning to you all. Good morning and welcome to our service here on February 28th here at First Parish Church in Weston. I am Jeff Barz-Snell, the minister, and we are delighted that you could take the time to tune in and join us on this day. If you are checking out our services for the first time, we're glad you have happened upon us. And if you are a longtime member and friend tuning in, we thank you for doing so. We strive to keep these services timely and hopeful with a little bit of something for everybody. We continue to miss the blessings of being gathered here in person to worship, to give thanks, to find inspiration, and come away renewed. Our service participants this day include Jeff Weeding, our organist, Kathy and Bill Rousseau, our song leaders, Bill Sano, our music director, Linda Kilburn, another song leader, Patty Sins, our chalice leader, Sarah Napling, our minister for families and community outreach. We also want to welcome to the sanctuary Mr. Officer Daryl Owens, who is on the Boston Police Department and is the founder of the Boston Police Teen Academy, an organization that provides summer programs to up to 60 Boston minority youth to work with Boston police officers as they develop positive relationships with others and seek better education and experience firsthand the value of law enforcement. Our opening hymn for this day is Every Time I Feel the Spirit. It can be found in the virtual PDF order of service that's on our website. I encourage you, especially this day and the next few weeks, to download that PDF order of service, since each week during the season of Lent, we are saying a different version of the Lord's Prayer during these services. I now invite you to join with me, rise up wherever you are, if you want, and sing with us 3 verses of Every Time I Feel the Spirit. Amen. Thank you, Linda, Kathy, and Bill. And now I'd like to introduce Patty Sins. She will light our chalice for this day.
We light our chalice this morning to honor our Unitarian Universalist faith and our collective commitment to the work of building a more loving and equitable world. Barack Obama frequently said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. He and many others attribute those powerful words to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but in truth, they were first penned by Theodore Parker, a Unitarian minister and prominent American transcendentalist. Born in 1810, Parker was an outspoken activist based in Boston who called for the abolition of slavery and wrote his sermons with a pistol on his desk to protect runaway slaves. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But we are bending it toward justice. Our actions make a difference in the world, and our faith calls us to choose the path of equity and integrity. It is not enough to simply be a good person or to do no harm. As Unitarian Universalists and as followers of Jesus, we are called to actively repair harm, dismantle systems of prejudice, and build heaven here on earth. May this chalice kindle within us the same fire of commitment that burned so brightly in Theodore Parker. And may our flames serve as a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who fight for justice.
Thank you, Patty. We now invite you to participate in a recent tradition here at First Parish Church, the virtual exchange of peace. We have this amazing technology in our pockets and on our persons, and we accomplish all sorts of amazing feats with it. But we rarely employ these devices simply to wish folks well. So take a moment and reach out to someone you know from First Parish or from the larger community via text, email, or a quick phone call. Send them a quick text, give them a call, shoot them an email, and simply say, "Good morning. I wish you well." Say you can't talk long right now, you're actually attending a service, and it's okay if they don't understand or think that's a little bit odd. Tell them you are participating in a service virtually and wanted to take a moment and wish them peace and wellness when so many people, even around here, are having a difficult and challenging time. I'd now like to call forward Bruce Peterson, who will introduce Mr. Darrell Owens.
Several months ago, Don Pearson created a brainstorming task force whose charter was to investigate ways where financial grants from First Parish could be used to fund Black and minority organizations whose activities and/or abilities to operate were negatively impacted by the COVID-19 virus. The task force goal was to find companies and/or organizations that are focused on having a long-term and positive impact on Blacks and minorities in the economically stressed parts of our state. The task force reached out to members of our congregation, and Gene Miller, who many of you know, identified the Boston Teen Police Academy as an organization that meets our criteria for improving the lives of Blacks and other minority populations. Darrell Owens is a member of the Boston Police Force and co-founded the Boston Teen Police Academy 10 years ago. He's here today to tell us more about his work in the Academy, and there was a summary of Darrell's journey in the last week's order of service. I would like to thank Darrell for speaking with us today and about the important work that he does. Darrell, welcome to First Parish Church.
Thank you, Bruce, and good morning. It's my pleasure to be here. It's what an honor to be able to come and speak about something that is very, very precious to me. I'll start with a little bit of my own history. So I've been a police officer for almost 32 years now, And that, even after 32 years, which is most of my life, it's a very strange thing to say that I'm a police officer, and I've been one for this long. You see, I was born in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and we moved up here quickly after I was born to kind of flee the Jim Crow laws in the South, as many African-American families did during that time. And things weren't really great up here. My father was involved in some crime, and he ended up being arrested and going off to prison. So my first memory of the Boston Police Department was seeing them arrest my father in my living room. And then they took him off, and he got on a little weekend furlough program from prison. He would come home every week, which was popular in Massachusetts at the time. And on my 9th birthday, my father was murdered. Not by the police, but by criminal associates of his. And so now I stand here and I'm saying, I've been a police officer for 32 years, when my family at the time and the community that I lived in, it's a great surprise that I've been here, and I'm still surprised by it. And one of the things that really helped me to become who I am, married man, a father of 2 wonderful children, a police officer for this long, was some mentoring that I received early on in my life. And then, for the course of my career, I ended up being transferred to the Boston Police Academy to teach self-defense. My mentor was a karate teacher that I met when I was about 10 years old. And I started teaching self-defense at the police academy. And I was always interested in reaching out to young boys, guys like me who were in the community. And so I would stay after work, and I would allow people to come and do tours at the academy. And one time there was a young man who had no idea who I was, no idea that I could relate to him, and he was really struggling. He was really struggling to communicate with me. I went home, I talked to my wife, I called a friend, and my friend, who's also a Boston police officer, said, "You need to do something. You need to hold a summer camp, a teen program, or something." And so we started. We started with 2 officers and 5 boys from the inner city. Well, that was about 12 years ago, the informal start of Boston Teen Police Academy. Today, we have served over 400 teens in our program. The program has grown to become a 6-week-long, positive, safe summer experience for inner city teens in Boston. In the program, we really look to take care of their bodies, their minds, and their spirits. We tend to their bodies by giving them a rigorous physical fitness class every morning when they come in. And I laugh because they're very surprised to have that class. And the first couple of weeks. They end up loving it by the end, but they're very surprised. And then mind. We provide educational workshops for these kids. We've had engineering students from Brandeis come in. We've had a career day. We've had writing and public speaking classes for these kids during the summer. And then for their spirit, we really tend to their social and emotional well-being. This past summer, we had a really big focus, because it was the summer of COVID. We had a really big focus on social and emotional health. We had social workers, trauma teams come in, teaching them how to cope with the things that were going on in their lives. It was a really great experience. And also, spirit, we connect them with mentors for the rest of their lives. The Academy, the Teen Academy, seeks to be a bridge between 2 groups that traditionally don't speak to each other well or in pleasant circumstances: inner city teens and Boston police officers. And there is a gulf of misunderstanding between these 2 groups. And the gulf is made of those 2 groups not understanding the humanity of the other group. So we bring police officers in from the street to help us staff the academy. We bring 60 to 70 teens in every year, and we have this great summer experience. The impact has been amazing. I'll tell you one quick story. This past June, as the city of Boston and other major cities around the country peacefully protested the unjust murder of George Floyd that had stemmed from a lot of police violence all over our country, the protests were happening here in Boston. one protest was particularly violent and stressful for our police officers. And there was a group of about 7 police officers walking down the street after having just been relieved of their post for a little while and sent on a break. They didn't even know where they were going to go. They walked by the Prudential building, and a security guard from Prudential knocked on the window and motioned for them to come in. When they came in, there was a clean bathroom for them to use, which is a really big deal. There was food, there was water, and there was places to sit that he had just kind of jerry-rigged, pulling all this stuff together and taking the food from their break room that was for them. As the Boston cops were sitting there eating and enjoying it, they said, "Why are you doing this? He's a young black man. Everybody's not liking us right now. Why are you doing this?" And he said, "Do you know Daryl Owens?" And they said, "Yeah, we know Daryl. He taught us self-defense at the academy." Daryl Owens did this program called Boston Teen Academy. I don't know if he's still doing it, but it changed my life, and I wanted to say thank you to you guys. So that's just one little story, and things like that have dotted the landscape for the Boston Teen Police Academy since we founded it. Now, we've been blessed to have funding and help in the past. The Boston Police Department has dedicated employees during their shifts to come and help us out. An organization, nonprofit called Hope Worldwide, was our initial seed funder. They gave us some money to get started. They've paid for food, they've paid for transportation, they've paid for physical fitness uniforms for our kids. They've been a lot of help. An independent philanthropist named Sean McGrath and his organization called the Highland Street Foundation, they've sent a grant every year to our academy, and we are so thankful. This bootstrap funding has gotten us where we are, but we want to take it further. We want to formalize our curriculum. We want to gather a cohesive staff. We want to have funding that's dependable and reliable going forward. And we also very strongly feel, once we perfect our model locally with some help from kind people who want to give to our organization, we perfect our model locally, we'll position ourselves for national impact. Because we feel that this human connection between inner city teens and police departments, it happens in flashes, but we want our program to be solid. We've seen it work. We've done a lot of research and data that can be made available to anybody who's interested in it. But I just want to say thank you so much for considering supporting our program. Again, I do a lot of things in my life, and I've messed up a lot of things, but I know that this one is right. So thank you for your support, and thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate you.
Our reading for this morning comes from the Gospel of Luke, from the 4th chapter. Hear now an account of the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness. Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing at all during those days, and when they were over, he was famished, and the devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command this stone to become a loaf of bread." And Jesus answered him, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone." Then the devil led him up and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And the devil said to him, "To you I will give their glory and all this authority, for it has been given over to me, and I give it to anyone I please. If you then will worship me, it will be yours." And Jesus answered him, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Here ends the reading. I want to start this morning by thanking Officer Owens for joining us this day and sharing with us the work and mission of the organization he founded, the Boston Teen Police Academy. During a time like this, when many of us are preoccupied with the ills and the woes of our communities and region and lives, it is a gift, it is a genuine gift, to learn about programs that are making a real difference. It is a gift to hear good news and learn about the ways that people in the greater Boston area are helping, where divisions between different groups can seem so very stark at times. There will be no bridging of differences if people don't err on the side of compassion. Try to foster some understanding and begin moving towards some vision of an improved world, an improved common world. So thank you, Officer Owens, for your good work and for being with us on this day. Now, as we gather on this last Sunday in February, I know many of us are watching this service with a mix of dismay and excitement. The pandemic has made this winter feel especially intense and isolating. And because of this, it continues to be a tough winter for many folks around here. And this is true for many of us watching this, but especially true for people who are struggling with illness right now. And it is especially true for people struggling financially and wondering how they're going to make their rent and to pay their bills and afford groceries and support their families. And even for those of us whose problems are of a lesser order, whose problems comprise isolation and inconvenience and inability to see friends and family in person. Even for some of us, this is proving to be a hard winter. Perhaps that is why I see people practically giddy with excitement as they finally get a scheduled time for that vaccine. The vaccine represents not just a protection against life-threatening illness, but it's a doorway back to normal life. It represents freedom. and the shiny, bright possibility that that our lives might return to some semblance of normalcy sometime soon. It means that we might be able to come out of the wilderness and the isolation imposed on all of us during the last 12 months. And let's hope that is the case. The wilderness can be a difficult and challenging, and for some of us, a life-threatening place. We heard in our reading this morning an account of Jesus being led out into the wilderness. Now, the word used by Luke in the original Greek is eremos. It's the word used to name and describe that arid, desert-like, and rocky area that is quite common in parts of the Middle East. The word hermit is actually related to the word used here in Luke. And there was this rich, mystical tradition of spiritual solitude and monasticism that grew up in this part of the world. Desert spirituality. People regarded the wilderness or the desert as a place with no diversions and significant challenges, a place where isolation encouraged rumination and contemplation. In a sense, all of us, to some extent, have spent the last 12 months pushed into the wilderness, pushed into a restriction on our lives and connections and world as a way to protect ourselves and one another. And if we are lucky, these restrictions did not adversely impact our financial and our social lives. If you look at how Americans are doing right now, the wealthiest 25% of us are doing just fine. The wealthiest 10% are actually doing great and have found their accounts and their net worth larger than it was even 12 months ago. Ironic but true. However, this recovery so far has been K-shaped, as we hear it described sometimes. There's clearly a divergence in the trend lines, with the richest 20% of Americans finding their situations heading up, and the poorest 40% of Americans finding their situation spiraling down. And there are a lot of people having a really hard time right now, even around here. So it makes sense that all of us can't wait. All of us can't wait to get that vaccine. For the shot represents freedom and possibility and the promised return of our former lives. For others, the shot represents a change in prospects, that there will be work again. It means that the back rent might start to get paid, and the risk of eviction becomes less likely. It means that we may not have to use the food pantry again next month, and we can start paying our bills once again. Returning to the story of Jesus in the wilderness, it was there. It was there in that uncomfortable and that unusual space where Jesus faced several temptations. It was there that he was confronted by the devil, we are told. And all of these were temptations to alleviate or escape his current situation. There was the temptation to turn stone to bread, since Jesus was hungry. There was the temptation to rule over all the world, since he was by himself and he was lonely. And there was the temptation to use his power to benefit only himself, since he was preoccupied with his own challenges and predicaments. Perhaps we can relate. We too, I think, face temptations these days as a community, as a region, as a country. After all, in our rush to get the vaccine, we can so easily be lulled into a false sense of security and complacency. We can get so excited in our rush to return to our own lives that we forget we still have some moral obligation to help others return to their lives as well. I know people who are already booking travel destinations and trips. Airbnb's activity is up big time. And yet the truth of the matter The truth of the matter is that this pandemic may still have a little ways to go. The variants are spreading exponentially around the world right now, including here in the United States. While the infection rates have declined from an astronomically large 100,000 cases per day to right around 70,000 cases per day, the number of deaths is not following that same pattern exactly as it has in the past. That suggests that for the time being, that the new variants may be more lethal for some portion of our population, and there are still questions about whether people who have been vaccinated can be immune themselves, but still spread some version of the virus to others. What this means is that we may need to continue to maintain social distancing and wear our masks and limit our gatherings for a while longer. It also means that the number of Americans who are dying from this may remain higher, stubbornly higher than we expected, at least for the next few months. Now, please don't get me wrong. I share the excitement. I too have the joy that many of us are feeling at the prospects of getting that vaccine. Some of you may have already had the vaccine. The last time I tried to get an appointment, I was told I would have to wait 3,122 minutes, which is 2.5 days, by the way. I just think all of us, including myself, need to resist the temptation of focusing suddenly on how we can resume our normal lives without giving any thought, any attention to the 50% or more of our fellow Americans who are having a more challenging time right now. And even when we achieve close to 100% vaccination of everyone here in the United States, we need to then turn a little bit of our exuberant attention to the needs of the rest of the world. Truth be told, this virus is going to be with us for a long time. The wealthiest 3 billion people on the planet, including the United States, Europe, parts of Asia, will receive vaccines hopefully over the next 12 to 14 months. This leaves, however, the poorest half of the human race without the vaccine. And yet we know that a respiratory virus like this can evolve quickly in any population where it finds a hold. I sincerely hope then that we will not be tempted individually or collectively to believe that once we get our shot, that we are through, that we no longer need to pay any attention to the ravages this contagious disease is waging on others, for nothing could be further from the truth. This is one of those cases, one of those times where, to paraphrase a line from the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., a contagion anywhere is a threat to human health and well-being anywhere. A global pandemic involving a virus that knows no borders requires those in positions of power, those in positions of authority to think and to respond, not regionally, not nationally, but globally. For those of us here in one of the wealthiest regions of one of the wealthiest countries in the world, we need to ask ourselves, what can we do? What can we do to support the regional, the national, and the global distribution of vaccines? Both our scientific understanding and our moral teachings tell us there is a certain enlightened self-interest at work here. And this is but one temptation we face as we schedule our vaccine and yearn for a return to our normal lives. As we all know, not everyone has been able to ride out the last 12 months with the same level of financial impact and personal inconvenience. People with college degrees, people with professional jobs have been able to transition online to Zoom and Vimeo And we all have become experts on how to gather and to work virtually. And while some of us have endured financial hardship, many folks here have done okay. But that's not the case. That's not the reality in many places, even right around here. There is therefore a temptation to focus on the immediacy of our own life situations and our context, and not bother to see the profound economic and social distress afflicting many families and communities, even within a 10-mile drive of where I am standing and where most of you are sitting right now. I think all of us need to recognize the devastating financial and personal impacts this pandemic has wrought disproportionately on lower income groups and communities around the Boston area and around the country. This is especially true of our African American and Latino brothers and sisters. This weekend, Barron's Magazine, that denizen of socialistic cooperative thought, Barron's Magazine had a powerful article describing how the COVID recovery is not widening. Is widening, not narrowing the wealth gap in this country. Families who were just making it before the pandemic find themselves confronting mounting financial challenges now. And this is compounded by the sad truth that COVID mortality rates are higher for African American and Latino communities for a variety of complex reasons. Time magazine is reporting in its latest issue that tens of millions of people are behind in their rent right now through no fault of their own, and this could result in a tsunami of evictions and massive economic and social displacement that is not good for anybody in this country. These are not normal times. They are not. And no amount of free market solutions are going to help the number of people who are in need right now of profound assistance. Something more needs to be done. So there could be a temptation. There could be a temptation to focus just on our personal situation, to make sure that our friends and our families are vaccinated and pay little or no attention or heed to the needs of our larger community and region. Not because we don't care, but because we're just so excited to return to our own gigs, our own lives. And I think that would be an unfortunate and myopic state of affairs, one that would actually prolong the collective misery that we are all and have all experienced. This season of Lent that began more than a week ago on Ash Wednesday feels very strange this year. After all, many of us feel like we have given up our normal lives, not just for the last 10 days, but for the last 12 months. But there are and will be insights and bits of wisdom that we can all hopefully glean from this challenging experience that we've all lived through. I remember my grandparents talking about their lives as young people during the Great Depression and what a profound impact that had on the way they chose to live their lives and have their careers going forward. This pandemic and its impacts is similar in scale and reach. At least it appears to be. So blessed are they. Blessed are they who realize there is no helping any of us unless there is help for all of us. Blessed are they who resist the urge to focus on their own liberty when so many around them are emotionally forlorn and financially distressed. Blessed are they who see the unavoidable and indissoluble bonds of connection we all share as we go about our increasingly interconnected lives on this small, fragile, beautiful planet that we call home. And blessed are they who take steps to help others even as they help themselves. For they alone will bring hope and possibility to those who truly need it. May it be so, and amen.
I invite you to pray with me. Spirit of life, God of many names and no names at all, divine energy of the universe, rest upon our hearts today. Settle deep in our souls as we recognize that there is still so much work to do. We have only begun to reach out to one another to heal ancient hurts and unspoken wounds. We have only begun to dismantle prejudice and build up peace. We have only begun to bend the arc of our universe. O Spirit, help us see the pain and suffering directly before us and all around us. Help us hold space for our discomfort, for learning and growing. Help us hold our integrity and our ideals. May we see hope in our history, in the brave souls who came before us. May we find the same courage to work for the joyful emergence of freedom and justice. May we continue little by little, day by day, to bend the arc of the universe towards justice and love. And I invite you, if it is in your faith practice, to pray as Jesus taught us to pray, with the version of the Lord's Prayer by Reverend Jason Trapp that is printed in the PDF order of service. O thou, whose kingdom is within, may all thy names be hallowed. May no one of them be turned against the others to divide those who address thee. May thy presence be made known to us in mercy, beauty, love, and justice. May thy kingdom come to be in the life of all humankind. May it come with peace, with sharing in a near time. Give us this day our daily bread, free from all envy and alienation, broken and blessed in the sharing. Keep us from trespasses against others, and from the feeling that others are trespassing against us. Forgive us more than we have forgiven. Deliver us from being tempted by lesser things to be heedless of the one great thing, the gift of thyself in us. Amen.
Thank you, Sarah and Jeff. Many of you have inquired how you can support First Parish Church and our work here in Weston and around the region, especially when we are not gathered here in person on Sundays. You can do so one of three ways, as we often like to say in these services. One, you can mail in a check to the church office. That always works well. You can log on to your bank account and set up a one-time or periodic donation. That's my favorite method. Or you can use PayPal. And the easiest way to do that is to have a PayPal account yourself, and then simply go to our website and click on the donate button at the top of the screen. And from there, you will see a link to our PayPal account run by the church. Regardless of the option you choose, we thank you, the members and friends of this congregation, for continuing to support our church's voice and presence and mission. What we do here matters, and it is certainly worthy of our support. Thank you, Linda, Kathy, Bill, and Bill. And thank you for joining us on this day. We invite you to check out upcoming programs and gatherings, including our virtual fellowship hour that will begin at 11:30 a.m. on Zoom. In addition, our welcoming congregation committee will be meeting on Zoom at 1 p.m., and our art gallery committee is hosting a special virtual reception at 3 p.m. today with the artist Paul Dudek, whose works are currently on display in our newly created virtual exhibit area, which can be found through a link on our website. This week, we'll host our regular programs, including Knitters and Stitchers on Monday at noon, the Senior Men's Luncheon on Tuesday at noon, and our Wednesday morning meditation program at 8:30. On Thursday, there is a program on trash and recycling sponsored by the Metro West Climate Solutions Group. In addition, I just want to note that our book group continues to meet, and their next gathering will be on Thursday, March 18th at 9:30 a.m., also on Zoom, when they will be discussing The Wright Brothers by David McCulloch. There are links to all of our online meetings and gatherings in the e-newsletter that was sent out yesterday and on the calendar page of our website. Finally, I do want to thank Officer Darrell Owens for coming and joining us today and sharing with us the good work of the Boston Teen Police Academy. We continue to find so many ways that we can participate as members of an active community from a distance. I am gratified. I am inspired to see so many of you stepping up and reaching out during this difficult time. That is what churches like ours do. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord keep all those whom you love, whether here or in some other place. May God be your companion and you be God's friend as you walk together through all the days of your life. And at the journey's end, may you find the welcome of God's love. It keeps us all. Amen.